on, everyone. Bella's growing larger, getting closer every hour. And with every hour, the time left to us gets shorter. So hurry.
Hello to all the classic people that are returning. I'm glad you're back. I want to welcome any new visitors. As a technical note, references and citations are listed for each show on the site at classicmovierev.com. Today on the Classic Movie Reviews podcast, we are taking on When Worlds Collide 1951. This notable science fiction film has a very low 6.7 rating on imdb.com. It doesn't do much better on RottenTomatoes.com with a 78% on the tomato meter and only 64% audience approval. On February 7, 1952, New York Times film critic Bosley Carruthers said, quote, "After all preparations and a brief but horrendous display of terrestrial upheavals as the satellite planet brushes by, shown in earth-shaking Technicolor, which is the most lately advertised kind, the actual departure of the rocket and its arrival on a new and frozen world are largely anticlimactic. Except for a rustle of applause to salute a perfect pancake landing, the drowsy audience at the Globe, where the film opened yesterday, showed slight interest. It appeared skeptical and even bored. Mr. Powell barely gets us out there, but this time he doesn't bring us back." Unquote. This movie has been one of my perennial favorites. I love the way they envision the future of spaceflight and the landing of the ship. It does fall off a bit at the end when they look at the matte painting of their new planet. I wish they'd held back some funds to upgrade that. The biblical message is a little heavy-handed for modern taste, but the damn movie has puppies, so it can't be all bad. I'll look a little more at the time this movie was made in the conclusions. Actors.
Right, and I'm a Shakespearean actor.
The phenomenal voice talent Paul Frees was the narrator and the voice of the American president. In this uncredited work, I thought he sounded a little like LBJ, but he may have been trying for the president at the time, Harry S. Truman. Frees was first covered in The Time Machine, 1960. John Hoyt played paraplegic and bitter millionaire Sidney Stanton. Hoyt was first covered in the film noir The Big Combo, 1955. Frank Caddy, Sam Drucker, played Harold Ferris. Harold's job was to push Stanton around and generally take abuse from him. John Ridgely had a small role as the chief customs inspector. Ridgely was first covered in the film noir The Big Sleep, 1946. Richard Derr played sexpot and flyer David Randall. He was born in Pennsylvania in 1918. I would have bet real money he was English. Derr started acting when he was 23 in Charlie Chan in Rio, 1941. Other films include B's such as Man at Large, 1941, Castle in the Desert, 1942, Commando Strike at Dawn, 1942, and Tonight We Raid Calais, 1943. He brushed the big time in The Bride Goes Wild, 1948 with Van Johnson and June Allison. His best-known role is from When Worlds Collide, 1951. Later films include Invisible Avenger, 1958, Tara is a Man, 1959, and the great movie Firefox, 1982. During his non-acting years, he is believed to have worked in real estate. Derr died in 1992. Barbara Rush played scientist Dr. Joyce Hendren. Rush was born in Colorado in 1927. She attended the University of California, Santa Barbara and graduated in 1948. Rush was active in the University Players and took classes at the Pasadena Playhouse School for Performing Arts. She was signed to Paramount and her first movie was The Goldbergs, 1950. They began throwing Rush into everything they could with films like When Worlds Collide, 1951, Quebec, 1951, Flaming Feather, 1952, It Came from Outer Space, 1953, Magnificent Obsession, 1954, and The Black Shield of Falworth, 1954. Some of her better films are The Young Lions, 1958, Robin and the Seven Hoods, 1964, and Hombre, 1967. She was a prolific actress on television. Rush is still alive. Story.
Let me explain. No, there is too much. Let me sum up.
The title sequence shows flames and explosions as ominous music plays. This film is clearly made for the drive-in. Following the credits, they zoom into a Bible in the passage, quote, "And God looked upon the earth, and behold, it was corrupt. For all flesh had corrupted his way upon the earth. And God said unto Noah, The end of all flesh is come before me, for the earth is filled with violence through them, and behold, I will destroy them with the earth." Unquote. So, unmistakably, we're playing for large stakes. By the way, this verse is from Genesis 6:12-13 in the King James Bible. Following the verse, the screen switches to a view of bodies in space that are described as needles in a heavenly haystack. They explain that men of science constantly study the heavens for understanding. The scene pans down to the remote Mount Kenna Observatory in South Africa. Astronomer Dr. Edward Emery Bronson, Hayden Rourke, is tracking two objects that have moved 1 million miles in a week. Bronson and two others hear the landing of a plane piloted by David Randall, Richard Derr. They have plates and exhibits for him to transport to Dr. Cole Hendren, Larry Keating, at the Cosmos Observatory. Bronson reminds his colleagues not to tell Randall what he is carrying. While flying, Randall is romancing a young lady in his single-seater. Randall is a bit of a man whore. It took him 2 hours to make the short trip from the airfield to the observatory. Bronson tells him that he won't know what he is carrying. He also says he will fly to Lisbon and take a flying clipper to America. Bronson gives Randall photos of Hendren and tells him he is the only one that can accept the package. They handcuff a briefcase to his wrist. Randall is told that Hendren will pay him, and a time will come when money won't mean anything. Randall is well liked by the stewardess on the clipper. He gets a radiogram with a $5,000 offer for the package from Donovan James C. at the New York Sentinel. Randall goes to customs with the locked box attached to his wrist. Yeah, like that works. I spent 2 years in a Peruvian prison trying that stunt. Anywho, Joyce Hendren, Barbara Rush, arrives with the chief custom inspector, John Ridgely. The custom inspector ushers Randall through customs after he IDs his passport. Randall is immediately struck by Joyce. Donovan comes running in and offers a check for $7,500. Randall refuses as Joyce tugs at his arm. Joyce takes Randall for a taxi ride in New York. Joyce spills the beans about the project and how afraid she is the end of the world is coming. Randall plays it like he knew all along. At the observatory, Joyce introduces Randall to Dr. Tony Drake, Peter Hansen, her fiancé. Randall and Tony exchange cigarettes as Tony explains that he is a medical doctor. Randall spills the beans to Tony, who may already know. Hendren comes out, but Randall won't give him the package until he verifies the photographs. Randall is escorted into a special meeting of the observatory's trustees. After opening the package, Hendren asks Randall to wait outside. Joyce pipes in that he already knows. Randall continues to lie, saying that he and Bronson have no secrets. Bronson has been working on the project for 2 years. Hendren has only been on board for 10 days. The data is sent to the differential analyzer, DA, and the plates are taken to be viewed. The DA, run by Joyce, is a full room of gears and wheels. Plates show that a star named Belus and its orbiting planet Zyra are racing towards our solar system. Hendren says Zyra will cause tidal waves, earthquakes, volcanoes, and other destruction. Belus will hit the Earth, ending our world in less than a year. Joyce comes in with the results from DA and confirms that the data is accurate. That night, Joyce, Tony, and Randall go to a dance club. As Tony and Joyce dance, Randall lights cigarettes with $100 bills. Joyce is eyeballing Randall over her fiancé's shoulder. Tony wants to get married before the world ends, but Joyce is looking at Randall like a starving dog at a bone. Tony is called away and Randall starts working his magic. Bronson, Hendren, and Dr. George Fry, Stephen Chase, take the findings to a United Nations Security Council. They tell that Belus is 19 days behind Zyra. The politicians reject the conclusions of the scientists.
Suppose they were built. Do either of you believe that spaceships can fly to any planet?
It is theoretically possible.
I do believe in theories, Doctor. But when you tell me flying to another planet is a possibility, you're out of the realm of theory. You're in a dream world of the impossible.
How many disaster movies begin with politicians rejecting science? Sounds familiar. Hendren proposed building a ship to fly to Zyra after it passes. They have 8 months to construct the ship that the politicians call a modern-day Noah's Ark. The UN rejects the idea. The 3 scientists are branded as hoaxers. They go to the US Congress and get the same treatment. A couple of millionaires pledge enough money to get the project started. Back at the observatory, Joyce comes to talk to her father. Tony is going to ask for Joyce's hand in marriage. Joyce says she is interested in Randall.
He wants to marry me now.
I don't blame him. Isn't marriage what you want, honey?
Oh, I've liked Tony. More than any other man. I was always sure we would get married one of these days.
Joyce, dear, there isn't time for uncertainty. You'll have to answer this question. Do you want to spend what time is left with Tony as his wife?
Hendren tells her to delay Tony and he will find a way to keep Randall around. An angry and hostile wheelchair-bound millionaire, Sidney Stanton, John Hoyt, arrives to discuss funding the construction camp, rocket, launcher, livestock, and equipment. Stanton is being aided by Harold Ferris, Frank Caddy. Stanton says he will fund the project but wants to select who will make the trip. Hendren refuses, and Stanton accepts in exchange a spot on the ship. Fry selects the men from the technical school that will go to build the rocket. They plan on using a mile-long slide with a jet-powered sled to save as much fuel as possible at launch.
This is a rough design of our ship. Now, instead of taking off in the customary manner straight up, we will conserve fuel by using a mile-long slide to give us impetus.
For this slide, the ship will be cradled on a rocket-propelled undercarriage, which will be automatically released at the end of the run. At approximately this point, the wing engines will be turned on, and here the full power of all engines will be used to carry us out of the gravitational pull of the Earth.
The ship will only be 400 feet long. Randall has been kept around to help run the camp. Joyce works with the recruited ladies. They are told that out of the over 600 people on the project, only about 40 will be selected by lots to make the trip. All the new workers are bused to the secure camp. The ramp and the shell of the spaceship have already been built. When they enter the bunker area, there are signs everywhere saying, "Waste anything except time. Time is our shortest material." Julie Cummings, Rachel Ames, and Eddie Garson, James Congdon, are in love. You know this will come back up later. One lab scans books on the microfilm. Signs tell how many days remain until Zyra and later Bellis arrive. Another area prepares livestock. Tony runs the medical lab that keeps everyone fit. Joyce is giving Tony the cold shoulder. Stanton and his assistant Harold show up, and Stanton is a general pain in the ass. Stanton says they will need to be armed when the panic starts. He has brought crates of rifles.
You've spent too much time with the stars. I brought enough rifles to stop a small army.
There won't be any panic in this camp.
Stop theorizing. Once the havoc is over, every mother's son remaining alive will try to get here and climb aboard our ship.
People are more civilized than that. They know only a handful can make the flight.
You've spent too much time with the stars. You don't know anything about living, the law of the jungle, the human jungle. I do. I've spent my life at it. You don't know what your civilized people will do to cling to life. I do, because I know I'd cling if I had to kill to do it. And so will you.
All the scientists worldwide now know that Bronson and Hendren's predictions were correct. The world is finally told that the end is coming, with Zyra being about 88 days away. Randall is flying an airplane with new scientists when Joyce comes to visit him. He says he is not going on the trip because he is not a scientist. Joyce begs him to go on the trip. He brushes her attempts away. Martial law is implemented in the U.S. Evacuations from the coast begin. Women and children first, with a promise that families will soon be reunited. The religious gather to their holy places to worship. Zyra is due to pass by the Earth at 1 p.m. When it's a couple of minutes late, Stanton starts showing his ass again, but then all hell breaks loose.
According to your figures, by now we were supposed to feel the effects of Zyra's passing. Tidal waves, oceans torn from their bed, millions of dollars for a false alarm. Ottinger called you a crackpot. I think all you scientists are crackpots. Nothing is going to happen.
The bunker almost shakes apart, and Joyce runs to Randall's arms. Tony finally sees the truth. A montage of every kind of disaster created in film is shown. The spaceship begins to break loose from the ramp. Randall and Fry lead a group of men to support the ramp with beams as others fight fire. A crane falls, killing Bronson and others. The ship is okay, and they have 19 days until Bellis arrives. Randall and Tony load a helicopter with supplies for survivors. Tony tries to leave Randall behind, and the two men almost get into a fist fight, but are stopped by the continued cries for help. Tony flies the helicopter. New York City is shown flooded with ships in the downtown area. In the country, they see a Red Cross camp on a small rise above the water. They throw the packages down to the men that use a blanket to catch them. Later, they see a small boy on the roof of a house. He has been tied to a chimney, and water is all around. Randall jumps out and loads the boy onto the hovering helicopter. Tony flies away, leaving Randall on the roof. But no, he's too good a man, and returns for Randall. They are buddies now, and Tony knows he has lost Joyce. 11 days before Bellis, Hendren says it's time to draw lots. He lists the pre-selected people. Do you like that term? Himself, his daughter, Tony, Stanton, Fry, the pilot, and Randall. He also says he wants to bring the boy that they rescued. The winning numbers are in a sealed envelope. They will each draw a number, and shortly before launch, the winners will be posted.
In this envelope is a list of numbers, the numbers of those who will go. In these boxes, we have placed numbered discs, the one on the left for the women, the other for the men. Each of you will select and keep one disc. This list will be posted on the dormitory bulletin boards shortly before the takeoff.
Stuart Whitman makes his film debut drawing a number. Harold, who is not in the drawing, looks all butthurt. Randall is hanging out by the ship, and Hendren talks to him about coming along. Randall insists that he is not going because he can't help in the new world. The countdown drops to 8 days, and people are loading supplies as a voice invokes them to hurry as they are behind schedule.
Attention, everyone! Bellis growing larger, getting closer every hour. And with every hour, the time left to us gets shorter. So hurry! More welders are needed by number 3 construction crew. Please rush!
Randall helps Fry with the pre-flight for the ship. Joyce is lovesick, and Tony cares. When Bellis is 4 days away, Randall is using the ship's view camera to stalk Joyce. Tony comes in and sees what's happening. Tony tells Randall that the pilot, Fry, has a heart problem and may not wake up from the blackout. He says Randall must serve as the co-pilot. Randall is over the moon. He runs to tell Joyce. Tony watches on the view screen as they kiss. Yeah. He's not too upset. Later, Joyce gives Tony a kiss for saving Randall. Boy, is Tony confused now. The rescued boy, as boys do, finds a stray dog that he wants to bring along on the trip. Joyce and Tony weigh the female dog and say they will kick some chickens off.
They gave me a real treat for breakfast. Boiled dog. Dog ain't bad neither. Now, dog is greasy, I'll admit, but you'd be surprised how downright delicate the flavor is.
With 1 day until Bellis, the workers check the list. Most are very unhappy. Eddie is selected, but Julie is not. Bronson wants to wait until the last minute to launch to save as much fuel as possible. Stanton is being a jerk again and wants to throw some people off to make sure that there is enough fuel to make the trip. Hendren stands up to Stanton and asks if he wants to be left behind. Eddie comes in and returns his number saying he will not be going along. Harold comes in with a 45 and demands that he be given Eddie's ticket. Stanton guns him down with a gun that he has hidden. Tony says problems have started among the crew. Randall comes in and makes the plan to load the women and lock the ramp, forcing the men to wait outside until near the end. Hendren says Eddie and Julie can go along. Fry is done with Stanton complaining. Bellis is massive in the sky and everything is tinted red. Most of the people that are going are in their weather gear for the trip. Everybody is on board except Hendren and Stanton. The left behind men are planning to take the ship. They find Stanton's guns. The armed men rush from the bunker with their weapons. Hendren activates the ramp, leaving himself and Stanton behind.
You are right, Mr. Stanton. You're a better judge of people than I am.
Get me on board. Wait! Down!
We're the extra fuel they might need, Stanton. The new world isn't for us. It's for the young.
Stanton stands, but only takes a few feeble steps. The ship runs down the slide and rises into space. Bellis crashes into the earth. Everyone on board blacks out. When Randall wakes, Fry is already awake flying the ship. He realizes what Tony has done. They turn the ship so they can have a thruster down orientation. The craft is down to 1/8 of a tank of gas. After it slows down, Randall turns the ship so it can glide in like a shuttle. Randall takes over flying. The fuel is gone. Not hitting a mountain, They come down in a bed of snow on the New World. The ship bounces a couple of times and slides to a stop. Randall gets ready to go outside, but Fry and Tony want an air sample first. Randall says it doesn't matter. This is the only air they have.
Dave, wait! Don't open the outer door until we've tested the atmosphere.
We'll get a sample through the airlock.
Never mind. Good air or bad, it's the only place we can go.
They open the door and lower the ramp. Randall breathes deeply and is fine. As they look outside at a terrible matte painting, the planet is green with vegetation and has liquid water. It seems like the producer ran out of money and just had to slap this on at the end. On the left side of the picture is a structure that looks like the Temple of Swan. Nobody sees it. They look for the boy, and he is with the puppies that were born during the trip.
Hey, Mike, don't you want to see the sunrise?
Our first citizen.
And they're all mine.
The people head down the ramp with animals and angels herald. Joyce and Randall walk down the ramp hand in hand as the sun rises. Text saying, quote, "The first day of the new world has begun," unquote, appear on the screen, bookmarking the biblical tone of this movie. I'll be right back with conclusions and the world-famous short summary following a word from our sponsors. Summary. During this movie, they spend time discussing whether it is possible to land on another planet. In order to put this film within its proper time frame, it was made during the administration of the National Advisory Council for Aeronautics, NACA, which ran from 1915 to 1958. In 1958, this agency became the National Aeronautics and Space Administration, NASA. So there were 7 years before NASA. Sputnik 1, the first thing shot into space, was still 6 years away when this movie was released. Sputnik was launched by the Soviet Union, which we now know as Russia, our once and always mortal enemy. Showing this movie has permeated our culture. In the Genesis cave scene of Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan, 1982, 2 cargo boxes are labeled Belus and Zyra. Kirk is the coolest in this scene.
Mr. Kobayashi Maru, sir, will you tell me what you did?
Lieutenant, you are looking at the only Starfleet cadet who ever beat the no-win scenario.
How?
I reprogrammed the simulation so it was possible to rescue the ship.
He cheated.
Changed the conditions of the test. Got a commendation for original thinking. I don't like to lose. Kirk to Spock. It's 2 hours. Are you ready?
Right on schedule, Admiral.
All right. I don't like to lose.
This movie has left a legacy on more recent sci-fi, with comets and meteors hitting the Earth in Deep Impact 1998 and Armageddon 1998. Coastal evacuation is similar in Deep Impact 1998. In The Day After Tomorrow 2004, ships floated into downtown New York City as well. In 2012, which came out in 2009, arcs were built to save populations. World famous short summary, girl throws it all away for a new guy. Hope you enjoyed today's show. You can find connections to social media and email at the site at classicmovierev.com or in the podcast show notes. If you enjoyed the show, go ahead and hit the subscribe button. If you've already subscribed, you can tell a friend, colleague, or family member about the show, or leave a review at Apple Podcast. It really helps the show get found. If you want to comment, suggest a movie, or help out, contact me by email at jec@classicmovierev.com. Beware the Moors.